I thought Silver's article was interesting too, because he said that, Aiyuk could be traded on draft night, which I think if he is traded, it's not going to be until like they're not going to trade
Right.
him now. It's going to be during the draft when that team is on the clock. But
Right.
Silver also said he could be traded on Friday for a second and a third in 2025. That to me would be if you only get
That's a really interesting point. And the fact that Eric Branch asked the question the way he did kind of, it's like, oh, is he going to be on the team on Friday? Well, I would anticipate it. Yeah, sure. Well, what about Saturday? Because what to your point, what Silver said is a lot of teams think the Niners may end up settling for a second round pick here. And if they do, maybe it's because they'd rather have a second plus a bunch of other picks than a first. I don't know. Maybe they don't want a 1-for-1 trade.
a second round pick this year and a third next year. Oh man, I can't see giving him up for that unless he has like really gone to the 49ers and said like, I'm holding out. There's no way I'm going to play which I don't think he would. I just can't. You don't have to do anything if you're the 49ers. He's under contract for the 5th-year option. You can franchise him in 2025. You can franchise him in 2026. So like you are under no pressure to trade Brandon Aiyuk whatsoever. There is, if you were going to trade him, you have to get a better deal than a second and a third next year.
But would you rather have like, let's say Brandon Aiyuk holds out 8 games? Would you rather have 9 games of Brandon Aiyuk plus the playoffs, and then you lose him and you'll get like a 3rd-round comp pick next year, or just trade him now, get the 1st-round pick or whatever you can get, and get a player who wants to be here, who's cheap, who's faster than him, and who's will be here for 17 games? I mean, that's what I would do. I think that's what they're going to.
It's not a 1st-round pick or whatever you can get. It's a 1st-round pick. If I can't get a 1st-round pick, I'm keeping him. And if he shows up for 8 games, great. And then I'll franchise tag him if I want to keep him again, and he can decide what he wants to do that. Like, I'm not going to be pressured into making a bad trade if I'm the 49ers by Brandon Aiyuk or anybody else.
But I think the problem is that teams know, like, if you don't want to pay that contract and you feel that paying that contract is just bad and wrong, like bad business, and you're not going to do it, then you'll trade him for a 2nd-round pick, right? You're just, because the options here are trade him for what you can get, the most you can get, or let him play out the extension and get a 3rd-round comp pick next year. That's what your options are. No, you're not willing to extend him. You're not willing to pay him.
You can franchise him after the 5th-year option. So then you get him for another year.
And then they just haven't been that kind of team. They want to be the player-friendly team that says, because if and when they trade Brandon Aiyuk tomorrow or the next day, what are they going to do? They're going to say, you know what? We just wanted to do right by Brandon. How many times has John Lynch said that? We just were thinking about, we put Brandon's interest first, not us.
Yeah, that's a lie.
But that's what they say. When have they gone to war with the player and be like, oh, he wants out? Sorry, you signed a contract. They just don't really do the stuff like that. Because John Lynch is always like, I was a player. I know how it feels. I was a player. I wouldn't want my business put out in the public. I wouldn't want to be held against my will. That's right.
That's not why he doesn't talk about stuff. He doesn't want to talk about it. He just couches it as, oh, I remember what it was like. Like, it's such
But it's posturing.
If it helped him,
you can't posture as the player-friendly team anymore if you go to war with Aiyuk.
But if it helped him to talk about the negotiations in public, he would. It helps him to shut up about it. That's why he shuts up about it. It's not because he used to be a player. Look, it's ridiculous.
Possible that they will make him play out his 5th-year option. They'll be like, look, we don't like these offers. The Colts are interested. Okay, well, the offensive lineman we want at 15 isn't there, and Bowers isn't there, and we don't want another wide receiver other than you. So guess what? You're going to play for us this year. You're going to play for $14 million. You're going to enjoy it, and we'll see what happens next year. Sorry. That could be what they do, but I just don't really see it happening.
But I think you can do it if you let Aiyuk's team go out and look for a deal, right? And I think that's why they've done that, because they say, look, you think you can get a better get a better deal than what we've been offered? Great. We would love that. We're happy to do it if you can find a better deal. And if they go out there and they don't have that deal, then the 49ers are not the bad guy anymore. They're like, look, you couldn't get a good
you're
deal.
Overestimating your market.
So now you expect us to trade you for less? Like, no, we're not doing that. And I kind of get it from the 49ers perspective, because maybe if that deal is not out there, Aiyuk is like, well, damn, if nobody's going to get me this money, maybe I take what the 49ers are offering. I stay in a place that by all accounts, TJ Houshmandzadeh just went on 95.7 The Game. That's Aiyuk's personal wide receiver coach, and said he wants to be in San Francisco. So maybe Aiyuk goes out there and says, damn, the league doesn't value me the way I want. I'll either take what the Niners are offering, or maybe I'll try to play on the 5th-year option, try to ball out again. And then if I hit the market, the deal will be there for me. And maybe he looks at it that
But
way.
here's what's tough though. What if Ayuk did find what he wanted? What if, let's say, Jacksonville is saying, yeah, we'll pay you $30 million a year and we'll trade the Niners our first round pick. And the Niners get there and they get cold feet and they're like, oh, we don't like the people on the board at 17. Then what happens? It's like, wait a second. You asked me to, I found the trade. They're willing to give you a first. Like, you don't like the people on the board? Come on. So I still think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen with Jacksonville.
That's the danger of letting him go out and find the deal. You run
it.
Help you. It could also bite you in the ass, like you just said.
I just think the Niners don't want people to know. I think it's probably going to happen with Jacksonville 17, and it just doesn't help them at all to make the trade today.
No,
and for people to know that they're going to do it. So they're going to try their best to make it seem like, yeah, sure, we're going to keep Brandon. Yeah, Brandon, he's going to stay here. Like, we'll see.
You can't make it now, because let's say you make it now and the Niners are at 17. And all of a sudden the tackles start to come off the board and there's like a Miami. Yeah, right. They'll jump in front of you if you make it now. So that's why you have to wait until, if it's going to be Jacksonville, you wait till Jacksonville's on the clock and then you do the deal.
Also, like, I think we can all guess if the Niners trade Aiyuk, it's pretty clear it's going to be to Jacksonville or Indy or maybe Pittsburgh, but probably Jacksonville or Indy, probably Jacksonville. We have no idea who the Niners want. I couldn't even begin to tell you. Maybe an offensive lineman. It might be a defensive freaking tackle. You know what I'm saying? We have no idea. So that is one thing that they have going for them, is there's still some mystery as to what they'd be looking for with the top 17 pick.
That's true. You don't necessarily know they would go offensive line. Maybe they won't. They've taken one offensive lineman in the first round in the entire Shanahan-Lynch era.
Maybe they get a freaking corner. I don't know.
I wouldn't hate that either. Brother Bob says, Niners % to get to and win a Super Bowl without Brandon Aiyuk in 2024. I don't think it's that much lower than it would be with him, especially if they strengthen the offensive line or the secondary or some other position.
Can we just remind, like, again, the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill, who's objectively better than Brandon Aiyuk, and then won back-to-back Super Bowls. They did it. Like, you don't have to have a high-level number one wide receiver to win a Super Bowl like the Patriots never did. And I know you're going to say, well, those guys had great quarterbacks. The Niners have a very good quarterback, too, and they have a great tight end, and they have an excellent slot receiver and a great running. Like, you could take Aiyuk off this team and still have among the best group of weapons in the league, not counting whoever you're going to draft with that, in round 2.
I completely agree with you. And I know he made the big catch against the Lions, but that play came on first down, first of all. So let's say the ball falls incomplete. The Niners could still drive down the field. That didn't put any points on the board. So if that was his most impactful play in the playoffs, what are we talking about here? I'm not saying he's not a good player. He's a very good player. But the idea that if you don't have Brandon Aiyuk, your season's down the drain, I just don't buy that.
It just seems like if you're the kind of team that wants to play offense this way, you're a run-first team, play action second, drop back third. You're going to often rank top 10 in rushing attempts and bottom 5 in passing attempts. Wide receiver is a clear position where you should be saving money. Doesn't mean you don't want good wide receivers. You want great wide receivers, but are you paying for them?
Right.
Fuck no. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Absolutely not. Write it down. Down. 44.59. Yeah.
It's down. Don't worry. That's the one I definitely got to go back.
I just won. I'm done.
Don't worry. Everybody sneaks them in. Even I let a couple fly, especially after losses.
Yeah.
Texan by Nature 88 says, do a pick swap with Jacksonville. You can move that pick up as well. Come on, front office. Think. I don't want to do a pick swap. I'd like to have 2 first-round picks, please. I don't want to do a swap.
No, I mean, again, AJ Brown got traded for pick 18 and 101. The Niners should be asking for something like that. Pick 17 and 1 something. A fourth. That's what you want.
To me, I wouldn't accept less than that. How could you not? And people are like, oh, AJ Brown is so good. I think you're thinking of AJ Brown with the Eagles. AJ Brown with the Titans was pretty much statistically what Brandon Aiyuk has been, really.
Yeah. So, and it was, again, he's like, oh, you're on a run-first team. They want to give it to Derrick Henry. He's getting about 100 targets a year. The Eagles saw an opportunity. They felt we could pay for that. We'll give the first-round pick and give him what he's worth. And it's worked out for them, although they haven't won a Super Bowl.
Yes.
So
obviously.
That's
they
the
also
goal.
got to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, sure.
Like the 49ers
sure.
did. I think it's I think it's definitely Jacksonville in the mix. Indy that you threw out earlier is really interesting. I still think Pittsburgh is going to be in the mix. Could there be the quote unquote mystery team? Could it be the Chargers? Would the Chargers be interested in a deal now that they have gotten rid of some players? I know they could draft somebody if they wanted to, but like you talked about, Ayuk's a proven guy, and first round wide receivers bust a lot. Could Jim
Yeah, I mean,
Harbaugh be in the mix?
that's the one I thought of immediately. Like he'd be a perfect fit with Justin Herbert, and they don't have any wide receivers. And if they want to compete right away, like Harbaugh does, like that would be a good player for them. But sort of the same logic applies. Like, how much are they going to pass? Now that'd be like, who are they going to pass to this year? Is kind of a wild question. So yeah, I think they would make sense. They can't trade their first round pick. They can't do that. Although that you could do like get the 5th round pick and then trade the 31 with Ayuk, but I don't even know if that'd be enough.
You'd have to include the first round pick at least.
Yeah,
like
at least.
That's a more complicated thing. How about a bidding war? How about John Lynch on the phone with Jim Harbaugh in one ear and Trent Baalke in the other ear? Then that's what you got to do, Grant. You got to get Harbaugh and Baalke bidding against one another because you know those guys hate each other's guts. That's what you really want if you're John Lynch.
Well, the Colts thing came out of nowhere today. Like they haven't been mentioned. And Daniel Jeremiah put it out in a way like it's not necessarily reporting it. He's just like, when I think of destinations, I keep coming back to these two teams. So what's interesting is like the Steelers made it clear that they're pursuing and they have pick 20. The Jaguars would be more appealing to the Niners because they have pick 17. All of a sudden the Colts at pick 15 or out of nowhere. Like it seems like the Niners are trying to inch their way up the first round little by little. I don't know if the Colts would really do it, but it doesn't. We know Trent Baalke. Is he desperate enough? Is he arrogant enough to try to do this? 150%. Yes. Yes.
Looking at some tweets from Tim Kawakami, he doesn't think the Amon-Ra St. Brown deal affects Aiyuk that much. He said, I don't think Ayuk's camp was waiting for St. Brown's deal to come in. I'm sure they have a number that is not low, but the Niners are tough negotiators, especially in April. And in this case, maybe that's not the wisest position. I don't understand.
Who said that?
Kawakami said that.
Okay. Yeah, I just think it's interesting. Like before today, I think most Niner fans would have guessed that Aiyuk is asking for $27 million a year. And I don't know why that was the number that most Niner fans thought was reasonable, but I think that it's probably been 30 or more than that the whole time. And that may have blown Niner fans' minds. And maybe that blows the Niners front office's mind.
More from Kawakami. I'll put it this way. 49ers know where they'll likely end up with Aiyuk if this goes to August. I'm sure Ayuk's camp number is quite high now. In the past cases, the 49ers' April offer was pretty low, causes tension. Might be the case this time too. Why not make the real offer now? Well, I completely agree with that. Lynch said it in the press conference that he'd like to get these deals done earlier. So why not make the real offer now? At least then you know one way or another, this is our offer. Take it or leave it, and we know where we stand. Because I hate uncertainty in life, Grant. I hate it. Because
if you make the offer now, then you still have to meet them in the middle down the road. So you're not. They're going to win. If you have a certain number in mind, you have to drag it out to August and make the other side feel like they're compromising to get there. I mean, if you just go there right away, the negotiation isn't over. They're just going to meet you halfway on the new number. Like that's why.
Here's my offer. Take it or leave it. That's how you do it.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Why not? We know the numbers, right? We know what Devontae Smith got. We know what the top of the market is. We know what Amon-Ra St. Brown got. It's not hard to find the number. It's all based on the previous contracts. So stop screwing around. And why do we have to play this game? No games. Just hammer it out one way or another.
Because I don't know, man. Maybe they feel like Aiyuk wants $30 million a year and he's not going to settle for less. And they're not going to go there. So what are you talking about? What negotiation is there?
So Kawakami, I think, agrees with you. He said the Niners side would probably argue that if they go high now and Ayuk's camp turns it down, the Niners have just given up their leverage. I get this. But waiting too long, which also happened with Bosa last year, definitely ups the April angst. I don't think the Niners give up their leverage because, again, they don't have to do anything.
Was there angst with Bosa? Everyone said that he was coming back. There was never a consideration of trading him. Ever.
Right. Consideration of trading him, but like he almost missed games.
Yeah, sure. But he didn't. I mean, they gave him everything he wanted. I don't know. It just seems like it's clear that to me, I don't think he's getting this extension with the Niners. That's what I feel like. He's not getting this extension with the Niners. He has no reason to compromise with them. The market's in his favor. They don't want to get into that market. He's either going to get traded or he's going to play out his fifth-year option. And I think he's going to get traded. That would be so explosive because he would sit out. He would not be there for training camp. He would not play the first few games. He would hurt the 49ers. And I think it would hurt their reputation around the league. Like, why do you treat a guy like this? Why?
I don't think they're treating Brandon Aiyuk poorly at all. I think they're treating him the way that teams should treat
creating
players.
an adversarial relationship with an all-pro player. Why?
Because I'm trying to get you signed for the lowest amount. I'm not just going to acquiesce to every player demand simply to have a good relationship with players. That's not how
that's how they've been for 7 years. So this would be a whole new, this would be a heel turn. All of a sudden they'd be, the bad guys in the WWF.
No, I don't think so. I disagree.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kittle's first offer was so bad they called it the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Trent Williams had to call Kyle Shanahan on the phone and be like, "Hey, dude, they're about to trade me. Make sure."
Yeah,
this
but they
gets
came
done.
through. They all had happy endings. This would not be a happy ending for. Can you say that on television? Happy. This would not be a good outcome for Brandon Aiyuk. I mean, God.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope it happens. I really want to see that kind of dynamic in the locker room. See how that goes.
Texan by Nature 88 says stats. Who puts their best wide receiver in the doghouse?
Kyle Shanahan.
That is them doing Brandon Aiyuk dirty. On that, I agree. He never should have been in the doghouse. It was absolutely stupid and ridiculous that Kyle Shanahan froze him out for half a season for no reason, just because Kyle doesn't like rookie wide receivers. That he's got legitimate beef with. I agree.
And it's like if he had done that to Debo, I would have understood. A guy who maybe isn't always in the best shape or doesn't always block that hard or doesn't always give his best effort when he doesn't have the ball. Okay, you go in the dog. I understand. We're not going to give you an extension. We're going to franchise tag you. We're going to go year by year because we question your motivation. I would understand that. But with Aiyuk, he shows up to practice. He does block. He does run clear out routes. Like, under what pretense are you going year to year with him? Just because you want to keep him under market value? Like, that's not even fair. You don't do business like that. You didn't do that with Armstead. Instead of keeping Armstead for under market value, you said, "Hey, man, go ahead and find way. We'll cut you." Like, why do they cut Eric Armstead? Because they're just so friendly.
Just seeing this on Twitter. I'm in full conspiracy mode, Grant. Rap Sheet just tweeted out, the Steelers have done a simple restructure of the salary of pass rusher Alex Highsmith to create more than $7 million in salary cap space. A little breathing room.
Okay, so I think there's 3 teams who are getting ready to make offers for Aiyuk on draft day. 15, 17, 20. And there might be another one. But, dude, this guy's getting traded. He is getting traded. And frankly, I think it's the right move, but it's all going to depend on who they get with that pick. Because if it's the next Tristan Wirfs, brilliant trade. If it's the next whomever, Javon Kinlaw, then no. So they got to make sure the guy has 2 good knees. And
it's kind of a bare
really
minimum.
Important.
So I'd like to actually throw that out in the chat. That's a good question. Would it be worth it to you if I told you that the Niners traded Brandon Aiyuk and got a really good right tackle or a really good defensive lineman or a really good corner? In your eyes, would it be worth it? Because I think some people would say no, even if they got a good player. I think in some people's eyes, Brandon Aiyuk is more valuable than a really good right tackle. And I don't know that I agree in this offense.
Well, I think the idea is if you trade up to 17, that you might get a player who could be a left tackle one day. I mean, that's the idea. Mm-hmm. So if they were to get Troy Fatanu from Washington, he is the kind of guy who could play left tackle eventually. He played left tackle in college. He has the length and athleticism to do it, but he could also play guard for a year or 2. He could play whatever position you need him to play on your offensive line until Trent Williams retires, and he just improves your team. He does. So I don't know. But again, like, everyone hates the Buckner trade. I hated the Buckner trade. If they had drafted Tristan Wirfs, it would have been one of the best trades in franchise history. So,
yeah. The problem with the Buckner situation is not the trade. It's what they did with the pick.
Right.
The trade, they weren't going to sign him. They maximized the value for a player that was not going to be part of their team going forward. That's great process.
And what did they learn from that trade? Like, you drafted Buckner with the 7th pick. He outproduced and outperformed his draft position. You traded him for, I want to say, the 13th pick, and you tried to replace him with a player at the same position. Like, how was a D tackle picked 13th realistically going to be as good as Buckner, who was drafted higher, had more production in college, like was a legitimate pass rushing, not just talent, but producer? Even if he had two good knees, how was Kinlaw ever going to live up to that? It was tough.
It would have.
It was tough.
He was put in a very difficult spot.
Yeah.
Nick Ellert, YouTube channel member. Appreciate you, Nick. Shout out to all our YouTube channel members. I see some people coming back after the Super Bowl, which I really appreciate. So thanks everybody for that. It's less than $3 a month. It's a fantastic way to support the channel. Nick says the Commanders have picks 36 and 40. Would you trade Aiyuk and our third for those two? Gives us 3 picks in the top 40. I would not, even though that is the smart thing. A lot of people that have studied the draft will tell you just trade down, get more picks. I wouldn't do that. Would you do that deal for 36 and 40, Grant? But you got to give up Aiyuk and a third.
Well, let me see what 36 and 40 are worth if you add them together. 36 is worth 540 points and 40 is 500. Add them together, that's 1140. And that's roughly the 15th pick in the draft. So it's a fair trade. You know, if the Niners, let's say the Colts are an option. If they don't like who's on the board there and they feel like they'd rather have 2 seconds than whoever the best player available at 15 is, that's a choice they can make. I mean, I think there's probably going to be an offensive lineman that could potentially be a left tackle that they should get in the top 20. But if they disagree and say, look, you know, the best guy available is going to be Talisi Fuaga, and he's really just a right tackle, and we don't want to take a right tackle. We did that with McGlinchey, and it didn't work out. We're not going to give a second contract to a right tackle in round 1, so let's take the second round picks. I would get it. But isn't that what they thought about Wirfs? They're like, he's just a right tackle. No, he's a left tackle. No. He can play left tackle. He's great. He's a great player. You should have had him.
That one stings.
Yeah.
It's 36 and 40. I'd still say no. I think that there's a first round pick out there. I really do believe that there's a first round. How could there not be a first round pick?
I think there is. If Jacksonville offers 17 and there's an offensive lineman on the board that you really like, just take it. Just take it.
It'll be
but don't do it for a defensive tackle, please. Please.
It'll be interesting to see the reaction because I think we all crushed the 49ers last year for not taking an offensive lineman. So if they take an offensive lineman this year, but in order to do it, they trade Brandon Aiyuk, I'll be interested to see where people come down on that because I think they'd still probably take some criticism.
Again, I still think what they can do, trade Aiyuk, spend that pick on an offensive lineman, improve the offensive line, give Kittle more targets, give Jennings more targets, keep Debo for 1 more year, draft a wide receiver in round 2, and ask, can you handle 50 targets this year? And he might be a lot better than that. Rashee Rice had 100 as a rookie, but just put him in a role where he's getting 3-4 targets a game and let him go from there. That could work.
I am a strong proponent of that plan, especially if you're increasing Debo's targets, you're increasing Kittle's targets.
And Jennings. There's a guy who had 19 catches to maybe a guy who has 40 catches.
It's very possible that the 49ers are a stronger, better offense with more targets to Kittle, more targets to Debo, more targets to Jennings, and a better offensive line.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yes.
That's not like a pie in the sky thing that we, could own our wildest dreams. Like that's a really logical, reasonable situation.
Yeah. And again, you're not sacrificing much in your skill position group. You're still going to have 4 really good guys and a rookie who may run a 4.3 and was a top 40 pick. And really, Kyle's pretty good at drafting wide receivers in that range. He missed on Dante Pettis. He hit on Debo and he hit on Aiyuk. If he comes to you and you're John Lynch and Kyle says, look, I really feel uncomfortable about paying Brandon Aiyuk $30 million a year. I don't think we can really get the bang for the buck there. And I think I'm telling you, this wide receiver at 35, I'm telling you, he's going to be really good. I would listen to Kyle on that. I'd be like, all right, I trust you.
And I also kind of like the idea of moving Aiyuk out and forcing this offense to have to evolve. It would look a lot different. I think if Kittle did get a lot more targets, they wouldn't come with him tight to the formation. I think you'd see Kittle in the slot a lot more. The offense would just look a lot different, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So I know we're all attached to 11, don't get attached because I think he's caught his last pass for the 49ers.
I just think he needs to be playing with a quarterback who has a stronger arm and a coach who is more committed to drop back passing. If Aiyuk were on the Rams, he'd kill it. Like he needs to go to a team like that. And the Niners, I mean, they're a run first team. They're play action second. Their quarterback has among the weakest arms in the league. Like they need to play to his strengths. That's Kittle. That's Jennings. That's wide receivers who make $8 to $11 million a year. That's why they were interested in Tyler Boyd. Like, you don't have to break the bank at that position with this quarterback and this team. Spend it on the offensive line. Spend it on defense. Spend it on tight ends.
One more sleep to go, and then expect, as Brandon Aiyuk said a little while ago, expect some fireworks because I think we're going to see them. Just a quick reminder to everybody watching, I will be live on draft night right here on the Gold Standard Network YouTube channel. So click the little bell. You'll get notified when we go live. Probably going to be around pick 28 or so, which is going to be late night for me here on the East Coast, but that's okay. We will be live with you. Please join us. I know you're going to be at the facility, Grant. I'm fast. Are they gonna do a presser? Do you know right after the pick, or is it going to be a conference call, or what's going on there?
The way they do it is they'll do a presser at the end of the night.
They will do one. Okay.
At the end of the night when they're all done, because they could trade Aiyuk for pick 17, make a pick, but they still have pick 31. They still have things they got to do. And even if they do trade up, they could always trade back into the back end of the first round. So they'll wait usually until the end of the round, and they'll do it Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So it'll be 3 press conferences in 3 days. It'll be interesting.
Oh, baby. We got one more super chat here before we go. Guru Ramprakash says, would the Niners trade Aiyuk and draft the defensive end Latu?
Yes.
He had that medical retirement though. That scares the hell out of me.
It does. But like, would they trade Aiyuk and draft a defensive lineman? Yes. Would I like that? No.
I think Niner fans would absolutely lose their mind if it happens.
Because if you're trading Aiyuk, I mean, to help your defense, what? That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, that's the other thing too. Is like, don't judge it after one night. Judge the whole draft. Like if they, let's say they trade Aiyuk and take an offensive lineman, but then they get a wide receiver early on day 2, like you're going to feel differently about it when you see the whole thing. So we got to wait for the entire draft to be over to know for sure, even though I will be instantly reacting on draft night.
It just makes sense to me to trade Aiyuk to put resources into another area of your offense. But to trade Aiyuk to put resources into another area of your defense is like, why? Wait a second. You have a quarterback you really like. I'm just saying that it might help Brock more to have a really good offensive line than super expensive wide receivers.
We'll see what the Niners do.